Terraria is one of those interesting games too. So a lot of people don't realize that. So Terraria is built on an engine called XNA that is now defunct. Well, not an engine; it's a framework. Engine's not the right word. That is now defunct. Monogame is what XNA. Well, XNA was effectively remade as Monogame, but I very much enjoy Terraria and have had an absurd number of hours in that game. But so it's C# is what it's written in. But it was funny because at the time that Terraria was being produced, like it was general consensus, like, oh, if you want to make a game, you know, you have to make it in C++, or you have to use all these other things. You have, like, there are only certain technologies good enough for games, and people would poo-poo on C# because that's what's known as garbage collection, which is the way it handles memory automatically for you. And I was just believed it could not handle that. And evidence shows that, you know, it's perfectly serviceable. And I'll kill those zombies. I'm just trying to get over here real fast. Then we'll hop out and kill them. But it's just funny because people are talking all the praises of Terraria and all that, and at the same time you're hearing all the poo-poo about, you know, C# can't be used to make games, and it's like, by the way, Terraria's made C#. That said, they've had to do a lot of work on their code over the years because, from my understanding, it was for the you know, individual and then later team that were developing the game. It was one of their first actual, like, game projects, so they were kind of, you know, learning as they're going, so they made a lot of mistakes, which, you know, it happens. That's not bad. But that there was a very old version of their source code got leaked, and it was a kludgy mess at the time because, you know, they were learning. I couldn't tell you what it is now, but it is fascinating just looking back at the progression that this is, you know, someone's passion project, and then it became like an actually successful game, and, you know, became more than anything they could have ever imagined beyond their wildest dreams. I'm sure a lot of that is probably also true of Project Zomboid, just Java instead of C#. And Java was also a language a bunch of people poo-pooed and were like, oh no, you can't use that to make games. How will you manage your memory if you have to use garbage collection? Garbage collection's fine. You just need to know how not to piss off garbage collection. And all garbage collection does in most of these, and this is me oversimplifying it, is as I load things into my game, I am putting raw potato into a bowl, but there's other things in the bowl with the raw potato. Well, for now. But, so, like, as we load all these different, like, objects and everything into our world, all that has to go into your memory of your computer, like what textures are here, what models are loaded, what items exist in your world, this specific zombie, what group they're in, like, all those get put in your memory of your computer. That way it knows how to crunch it, how to process it, how to do all that stuff. Now what happens is when I walk up to the zombie and I go, blap, that zombie's dead, at some point the game needs to unload all the memory it's got locked up on that zombie. And that way, you know, it can be recycled, be used for something else. Now, with some languages like C++, you can very manually go in and say, load the zombie, unload that zombie, load the zombie, unload that zombie. Like, you can get down to the very fine detail of the memory and do that. Now, with stuff that has memory management, usually you can do overrides that allow that type of stuff, but generally that's bad practice because you can get yourself in trouble with it. Instead, you rely on what's known as a garbage collector, where basically, I've got this zombie, I'm no longer using it, and it doesn't immediately unload the memory. It just says, hey, this object here, or like this memory here, it's free to grab once we need to. And then there is a process that actually goes and unloads stuff from the memory, making it available again to be recycled and reused. It's just C++, it used to be you had to manage all of that yourself manually. which allows you to make more informed decisions, versus garbage collection would do it automatically, which means it would try and guess what your intentions were and all that. And the problem that happens with garbage collection is a lot of times it just hold on to stuff until you actually really needed that memory, and then would free up a whole bunch of memory at the same time. And so you'd play a game, everything would be going swimming, it would be smooth, it'd be crisp, and then for some reason the whole game would just chug for a second or two. And it's when you hit that point that, you know, it was saying, okay, I need memory. You've got all this stuff that's ready to be garbage collected, you know, free up that memory for me. And that process would end up just absolutely killing your performance. But nowadays they've gotten way more sophisticated to the point that, yes, technically you can still get better performance out of C++ and that kind of stuff if you go really careful in your management. But, like, it's way more nuanced than it used to be. Like, nowadays you use C++ for, you know, specialty purposes or, like, real edge cases where you really have to push hard. And those exist. Like, you still have simulation as a very popular place for C++. It's not a bad language or anything, it's just you have to be far more careful with it because you're managing your own memory yourself. Yep. And that's not uncommon. Yeah, or as the Greater Danger says, or you're dealing with stubborn people who really want to use it. Of which my immediate response is, why would you want to use it? Who hurt you? Why do you want to manage your own header files and memory? Why would you do this? It doesn't add to the quality of your product to have header files. I mean, it doesn't hurt the quality to have header files, it's just a thing you have to manage now. And to be clear, there are things that make C++ a lot of the memory management way better than it used to be so far as having to manually handle everything, but still. It's a pretty heavy-handed way of dealing with stuff. More to the point is, use whatever language you want. It pretty much boils down to, there's a few things that, like, very specifically, like, there's specialized languages. That it's a language that does one thing, it's designed to do one thing, and it does that thing really well, and making it do other things maybe is not a good choice. But the vast majority of languages that are popular are general purpose, like, again, C++, or not C, yeah, C++ would actually. C++, Java, C#, Python. Let's see which other ones. Ruby. Like, these are all languages that, you know, you can use for just about anything. JavaScript as well. I personally, just from doing web dev, am not a fan of JavaScript. I respect its power. I respect its importance. Like, it is a useful and important language. I do get annoyed that people want to use it for absolutely everything, because I also just don't like JavaScript as a language. Because just dealing with, like, adding numbers in JavaScript can get you a whole series of different results, and it just is infuriating for me. But that's because it's all inferred type. There's no, I shouldn't say there's no. It will automatically convert and infer types in a lot of cases. Yeah. Where the joke is, if I add 1 to 0, it gets one answer. If I add 0 to 1, you get a different answer. And then you just, if you subtract 0 and 1 and 1 and 0, you get different answers. And you're just like, but why? And it's because sometimes they'll translate it as a string and sometimes they'll translate it as a number depending on the format. And you're just like, but why? There's nothing intuitive about that. Yeah, that's the one I've found is like depending on like you can do stuff where you'll subtract the numbers and you'll take like 11 minus 1, you'll get 10. But then if you do 11 plus 1, you'll get 100 and what, or you get 111. But and just like but why? Like I understand what's happening is in the addition it's treating it like a string, and in the subtraction it's treating it like an integer. But why are they different? Like, I get on the like the way the interpreter's handling it, how that happens, but like why wouldn't we correct this? Why wouldn't we change that? Why is that behavior deemed acceptable? Because it's super inconsistent. Oven. And wife is gonna go ahead and take care of when they come out of the oven. Wait a second, wasn't I like super tired? Maybe I'm misremembering. I was like, I thought my character was getting super sleepy and we're gonna have to back out soon. I'm like, wait a second, no, we're good. Like, hey zombie I did not see. That's not cool. I was busy focused on the pack by the door, looking to see if there's anything good. Caught the movement out of the corner of my eye. But, yeah. Yeah, so that execution animation, I haven't actually got myself caught with that, but I've had many times where it's very uncomfortably close to being caught. I don't know if it can get you caught. Like, I could certainly see if you were fatigued really bad or overburdened or something, 100% I could see it getting you caught. Because I've definitely been at the point where it's like I'm holding the direction to run away, just going, please, let me go. So I could certainly see where, potentially, if you had modifiers that slowed you down, that might be enough that you get caught. And when we get back, I'll have to check my garments. Like, I did replace my boots, because my shoe is what got, you know, the most damaged from when we tripped. But it is possible that we, like, ripped our pants or something else while we were doing it. So I want to check all that, see if I need to replace any clothing. Oh, and just because I haven't done it yet for a stream, and I know a few people said they were new, let's go through the whole spiel for new players, kind of guidance. So, for anyone who's new to the game, the first thing I'd recommend is before you really get into anything, push escape, go to options, and go to this display tab. So, one thing to consider is blood decals. This can cause performance implications, so if you start getting to the point where as you're killing more zombies, you start noticing your frame rate's not getting too good, it's getting kind of choppy. Turning this down is one way of solving that. Now, if you turn it off and you're still getting choppy, Project Zomboid does actually use a decent amount of resources, despite, like, people look at the appearance and go, oh, it's like The Sims, it can't be that bad. There's a lot of stuff happening underneath like, there's a lot of important stuff happening in the simulation that is computationally heavy. So this is a game that hits your CPU pretty hard. So it can be deceptive on how performance taxing can be. Another thing to consider is the ISO cursor visibility. I believe it will default to 50 and 75% nowadays, but I'm not sure. It didn't used to. But if it's not there, I would recommend setting it to 50 or 75%, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. You may consider choosing to show mouse cursor while aiming. That's just when you're holding the right mouse button to aim in a direction. You won't see your mouse. I personally prefer to leave that on because losing track of your mouse will get you killed. So it's kind of good to always know where that is. And the last setting I would highly recommend is where it says aim outline. It starts on ranged. I would recommend any weapon. And that's when you see when I go to fight zombies, when they get in range of me, a little green outline will appear around them to let me know that they are in range, I can hit them. I'm not going to unlock the frame rate. That helps me not, overtax the thing and hurt the performance of the stream. But yeah, so that can also be helpful. It also is a lot of value because it tells you which zombie you're going to hit, because sometimes it's unclear. Now, before we get too much farther, so again, when we get to the zombie, you'll see them get a green outline when they're in range. I'm going to push them over. Said push them over, there we go. So, another thing that people don't realize is if you or another zombie are standing on top of a zombie that is not a crawler, then you pin it to the ground, it can't hurt you. The zombie is no threat to me so long as I am standing on it. Now, if it's a crawler, they'll bite your ankles and you'll have a bad time. But that's a very helpful thing to know when you're trying to like juggle 2 or 3 zombies and you're unarmed. You can actually push one of the zombies down, stand on them, then work on the other zombie while the one is effectively taken out of the fight. Now, for the last thing, that ISO cursor visibility, if you look below my mouse, you'll see this little circle with a line sticking out of it. That's where I'm actually aiming. So, like, that spot on the ground and the zombie or whatever would be above it. So you do want to have that where you can really see it, because one of the ways you'll get yourself killed is say there's a, say this zombie right here in the red pants is alive and right in this position. Yep, okay. Never mind, we have actual zombies here. But one of the things that can happen is it's very easy to accidentally aim like 30, 40 degrees off of your target, and then suddenly you just miss them, and that's the end, because you miss them, they walk up, they grab you, they bite you, bad times. Another thing I'll point out is this zombie, like the one that's dead directly in front of me, I don't need to aim right here to hit the zombie. If I'm aiming back here, because that zombie relative to me is in that direction, I will still hit that zombie the exact same as if I have my mouse directly on it. So generally, I recommend trying to keep your mouse a little ways behind wherever your zombie line is. Enough that you can switch sides of you very quickly, but not so close that like you get here, you'll notice sometimes it gets kind of squirrely on its positioning of like where it thinks I'm aiming. So you don't want it, like you want to not have it anywhere too close to your character at any time. Just because if you accidentally turn around while a zombie is there, your character does have, like they can only turn so fast. So it can be dangerous to have to turn around rapidly. And that's one of the reasons why you always want to try and fight zombies on one side of you, because the turning back and forth can get you in lots of trouble. I also generally recommend, like, you can use whatever you want as like a primary weapon. Like, that's fine. Like, they're all serviceable, they're all good. I do recommend keeping a short blade on hand other than the meat cleaver as a secondary, because they use so very little stamina that when you're getting close to getting exerted, you can immediately switch over and you're good to keep going. And the reason I say not the meat cleaver is the meat cleaver does use a decent amount of stamina. Like, it's a perfectly serviceable weapon, but I would consider it more in the primary type weapon than something you fall back on when stamina is a concern. That's kind of our quick talk through on that. Another piece of advice I try to always give new players is slow down. There's no rush. This isn't a race. Take your time. Play it safe. You don't want to and you don't need to be running from place to place. Be patient. Running uses a lot of stamina, really fast. You much rather have that stamina for when you're fighting zombies and in real danger than just being impatient going from this door to that door. Because when I say it's burn stamina fast, it tears through your stamina. Like, you'll notice I am constantly, like, switching between stuff like my hunting knife and that. Just, all of that is just balancing stamina, that when I start getting low, before I get to exertion, I'll switch out. When my stamina starts recovering, I'll switch back to something else. And that's all without running. So you can imagine if I toss running into the mix, I'm just going to shred through my stamina even faster. And granted, if you level up sprinting, it will reduce the stamina effect of running around, but the point still stands. It burns stamina. That's how you do it too. You know, basically pop back and forth between like a weapon and that's like might be a bit of a stamina hog, and then like a short blade. It's become a pretty popular strategy. It honestly surprised me how few people were doing it when, like, yeah, spear and knife. Spear and knife's popular. Axe and knife is popular. Just because of our runs, I basically will use whatever I can get my hands on. So it usually ends up being a lot of short blunt weapons because short blunt weapons are pretty easy to get your hands on. There's just a lot of them. Cool, I feel like we've effectively cleared out the zombies immediately in this area. Like, there's probably a bunch inside these buildings I'm going to have to kill. Actually, we're nowhere near tired that I will kill. Is my car down here? I think we parked our car down here. Or maybe it's still up this way and we didn't pull it in yet. Yeah, we didn't pull it in yet. Yep. Yeah, whether or not you push down, because pushing the zombies actually uses a decent amount of stamina. It's not as bad as like swinging a crowbar or an axe or something, but like it is decent. So if you're really trying to conserve your stamina, it's better to just poke the zombies with your knife. That said, it's not a bad idea, like just using them when they're on the ground also. Yeah, well, I mean, I get the 10 strength. It's the action of actually pushing uses stamina. Like, if you're successful every time, that's awesome. But it's still more stamina than the knife uses. So that's like when you're going, oh, I'm right at the edge of exerted. Let's not take the 30% or 20%, whatever the penalty is, of moderate exertion. Let's hold off. That said, like, there's nothing wrong with that strategy. I think it's a perfectly good strategy to push and then execute the zombies, so long as you've got the room to do so, of course, you know. If you're dealing with, like, right now, I can't squeeze in a push and a ground stab. But when you're dealing with one or two, absolutely. Or if they're just nice gaps in between them. I like when you get those ones where it's like, you know, 4 or 5 zombies worth of space between your zombies. That's like, alright, I get to kill these one at a time, as if they're loners. Cool. But you'll have a lot of people go, short blade, that's basically suicide. No, they're wrong. There may have been a time in history that was true. I don't honestly know. I've just heard. But like, you'll have people saying, oh, the execution animation will get you killed. Like, it's just so dangerous. It's like, no, the execution animation, like, I cannot execution animation. We'll just shove. As long as there's more than one up, we'll just shove. I kill him. I honestly don't know if that's a him or a her. I can't really tell, so I'm just going to walk away and pretend we don't address it. I think it was a her. But if you get one zombie aggroed on you, then you'll execute. Now granted, like I said, there are situations that can be trouble. I'm going to double check my corners before I do this. Like, so if I'm here, and I execution animation something here, I can have a zombie come up behind me and grab me during that, because I'm unaware of the zombie over here. So it's not, like, that is a situation, but to be fair, even if I don't execution animation that, I'm still going to die in that situation. Because the zombie's going to come around the corner, I'm going to get like a 1/10 of a second to react, and then it'll be too late. And even then, if I'm mid-swing, it's probably still too late. But otherwise, you won't execution animation to get yourself in trouble. And if you're really worried about it, as long as you're moving backwards, I mean, moving in general, but backwards, because backwards is the way you should move when you're fighting zombies, you won't execution animation. You only execution animation, I'll show you in the last one. If I walk up and I stay, if I stop moving, that hand will lift, and then you can stab them. Yeah, the difference I found with the spear is the spear will execute when you have more than one aggroed. There's like, if the zombies are close enough, it won't. But like, it makes me super uncomfortable. It has never gotten me killed, but it makes me super uncomfortable at times when you start the execution animation and there's something nearby and you're like, please, just let me go. I don't want to stab it anymore, I just want to get away from the zombie before it chomps me. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, spears are absolutely, like, they're easy to argue as being a potential meta. Cheese hates the animation, I assume? Or that spears are easy? I mean, my argument for spears, like, where people would say they're easy, I'm like, right, but there's an investment in getting to that point. You have to get your carpentry up, you have to get your spears up, you have to get your maintenance up. Oh yeah. And like, I get the lock, but yeah, no, I don't like things that mess with my, like, that take away my control of my character. And that's been, like, that's not just Project Zomboid, that's in general. And most games, that's one of those things, it's like, it's not that you can't take away the player control, just be, like, one, don't do it a lot, and two, like, be very careful about those decisions, because they are super unpopular. It's kind of the thing of, it's not as fun to fight the controls of a game. Like you could have an incredible game, but if it's got bad play controls, that can just ruin it. So most games, just when something is happening that does not feel good to control, it's a bad time. And taking away the control from the player just feels like bad control, even if it's not. Like, it can feel like input lag, it can feel like all that kind of stuff, even though it is very deliberate going, oh, you know, this is just the nature of that attack. When you do this attack, you pin yourself in place. I'm like, well, can I not do that attack? Can I just remove it from my options? No. Oh, okay. Yeah. I will not run without keen hearing unless I absolutely have no choice. Keen hearing is just such a powerful ability keeping you alive. And we are hitting that point where I am going to have to head back to... Correction, we have reached that point where I need to head back to home. Because I am entirely out of food, so that's not good. That's okay. I was expecting to run out of water in my main water bottle pretty soon here anyways. We did a really good job so far as clearing this area up. Yeah, I got like one tick, not even of water left in the bottle. Yep. So Yo-Yo is saying, Mr. Langsley was explaining that the spear animation can be cancelled by the presence of two zombies close to you. Yes, that's what I was going to say is, there is some distance that I've noticed that you will not do the execution animation when there's more than one zombie nearby. And so the trick is just, you know, to manage that so that you're not in that situation. Oh, I just realized the Greater Danish cached in some push-ups, and I didn't even see it. Bumped it up to 10, and every one of you was like, yes. Push-ups. All of the push-ups. Hey, Valkyrine. How's it going? So actually, it's funny. I'm sitting here trying to come up with, because the artist I use, she prefers to do them like in sets of like six emotes at once. And I've been sitting here at 5 emotes that I'm like, those are the ones I'm going to do. But I've been struggling on the 6th one. I'm not sure I would make it roll swole, but I could definitely see doing something along those lines. Because one of the ones I was asked for was like a push-up emote, and I'm like, like, it's cool, but I don't think, like, that's not the one I'm feeling. Like, definitely down for one that's like workout or whatever. Just specifically push-ups. Like the emotes that came to mind, like an image of the character doing a push. I was like, stupid zombie. Had to drive slowly into it. So yeah, I think by the end of the stream we're going to be able to call this warehouse area cleared. Because it feels like it's clearing up pretty efficiently. Yeah, versus like a raw swole where it's just like, you know, someone, like the character flexing or something. Like, oh, okay, I can see something along those lines. Like, or a workout emote, which, you know, you could put them on like a treadmill or a exercise bike or something. It's like, okay, you know, that's very clear what's happening there. The exercise bike, the only concern is I feel like that one would be too hard to see, because you have to include the exercise bike for it to make sense, versus I feel like the treadmill, you can put like a headband on or something to imply that they're running. I don't know. But yeah, that might not be a bad idea. Actually, if you'll bear with me. Just instead, like the ghost, my plan is to have like a white flower or something. Yep. Gotcha. Yeah, so like, so with the teach one, I wasn't picturing so much as a book, just like have the character there like pointing and then have like the chalkboard behind them kind of thing. Something that says hello? Do I have an emote that's a good hello? No, you're right, I don't. That's probably something I do need. That'd be good for a follower emote too. Because that's been the whole thing, that's been the driving for the next set of emotes is I have 5 follower emotes that are like free to anyone who follows. So we gotta figure that out. Okay. So one that says hello. My mind immediately goes to the Obi-Wan Kenobi, well, hello there. But gotta see what I think. I need to check the tires. This thing seems to be pulling towards the driver's side a little bit. So I keep correcting and then overcorrecting. Yeah, you see how we're slowly drifting over? Yeah, I'll have to look at the animated ones, because one of the things it does give me is it'll tell me how many different individuals use my emotes within a channel and in other channels. Not like what channels, but like that they're being used in other channels. And I can look through some of the ones that, like, the animated ones, for example, because a lot of those are just my emotes with animations applied. So I could certainly see the case for if there's some of those animated ones that are just seeing 0 love anywhere, that I swap them out for other ones. Because I have a limited number of the animated ones as well. Like, it's one of those things I can't, like, I don't know how I think you get partners how you get more now, from where I'm at. But there is a thing that you have to get X number of subscribers to unlock more. And then after a certain point, it stopped telling you what you need, like, for a milestone to unlock, so I assume partner is the next milestone. Yeah, people arrive. I know that one. One moment, I got food. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't have a particular emote that says hello, so that'd be good to have something along those lines. And that'd be a really good one for the follower emote. Yeah, no, that's definitely a really good idea, is to come up with something for a hello emote. And the people arrive is definitely... Yeah, the people arrive is definitely one option where it's just like, you know, moves in from the background kind of thing. I feel like, so that would be one I'd have to animate myself. That's not like one of the automatic animations that I could say, this is the animation I wanted to just do. That's not a big deal. I did computer graphics way back. Oh, I need to gas up. This week says, every time I use Let's Go Slide, I think winter sledding. I mean, that's a good thing, right? I mean, I certainly miss winter sledding. I haven't done that in like 20-something years. That whole lack of seasons going on here. I need to find a stream sometime where someone like is midstream eating something delicious, and then just do like the Let's Go stream, like, or the Let's Go slide, and just like hand over the cake or something like that. Whatever the thing is that they're snacking on. Obviously as a joke or whatever, but it would work so well. Never without my crowbar. Okay. It's time to start the next row, because that should be 10 katanas there, and then this will be the 11th. A rhetorical answer. I mean, we've had our katana collection for a while now, I believe. Don't mind, we sleep here. It's okay.